Imagine your dog disappears during a trip hundreds of miles from home. Days or even weeks later, it somehow walks back to your front door. It sounds like the plot of a movie, yet documented cases like this have fascinated people for generations. So, how can an ordinary dog accomplish something that would leave most humans completely lost? Stories of dogs finding their way home have been reported all over the world for decades. Some involve pets traveling dozens of miles, others describe dogs covering hundreds of miles before being reunited with their families. One of the most famous cases happened almost a century ago. In 1923, a dog named Bobby was separated from his family during a road trip in Indiana. 6 months later, and nearly 2,800 miles away, Bobby walked into his hometown of Silverton, Oregon, on his own. He had crossed rivers, deserts, and even the Rocky Mountains in the dead of winter. His journey was so widely reported and so many people wrote in describing where they had seen and fed him along the way that investigators were able to trace much of his route. While every story deserves careful scrutiny, researchers agree that remarkable homing behavior is real. Not every headline can be independently verified, but there are well-documented cases of dogs navigating extraordinary distances under challenging conditions. What makes these stories so fascinating is that many of the dogs crossed unfamiliar roads, forests, fields, and towns. They often traveled without anyone guiding them and without obvious landmarks to follow. Some returned after escaping from veterinary clinics or shelters. Others disappeared during vacations and somehow headed back toward the places they knew best. Naturally, people began asking the same question. Do dogs possess some mysterious sixth sense? Or are they using biological abilities that science is only beginning to understand? The answer appears to be far more fascinating than magic. The first and most obvious explanation is smell. A dog's sense of smell is vastly more sensitive than our own. Researchers estimate that dogs possess hundreds of millions of scent receptors, allowing them to detect odors at concentrations humans cannot even imagine. To us, a neighborhood may simply smell fresh after the rain. To a dog, it is filled with invisible information. Every person, every animal, every vehicle, and even changes in the wind leave behind chemical traces. When dogs travel familiar routes repeatedly, they may build an enormous scent map of their surroundings. Even if a direct scent trail has faded, overlapping odors from familiar places could help guide them step by step toward home. But smell alone probably cannot explain every remarkable journey. Some researchers believe dogs may also sense Earth's magnetic field, a phenomenon known as magnetoreception. This idea gained attention after studies observed that dogs often preferred aligning their bodies along the north-south axis while relieving themselves, particularly when Earth's magnetic field was calm. That behavior does not prove dogs use magnetic navigation. However, it suggests they may detect magnetic information in ways humans cannot. One especially interesting study found that some dogs, after wandering through unfamiliar terrain, briefly ran along a north-south path before choosing a direction home. Researchers proposed that this short compass run might help the animals calibrate their internal navigation system. If that interpretation is correct, dogs may be carrying a biological compass everywhere they go. Scientists are still investigating exactly how such a system would work. Dogs also appear to use visual navigation. Like many animals, they can remember landmarks, recognize road layouts, follow rivers, and use the position of the sun throughout the day. These visual cues become increasingly useful once they reach territory they have explored before. Equally important is memory. Research suggests dogs build what scientists call a cognitive map. Rather than memorizing one single route, they gradually develop an internal representation of their environment. This allows them to choose alternate paths when familiar roads become blocked. Think of it less like following GPS directions and more like knowing your own hometown well enough to take several different streets to reach the same destination. Instead of relying on only one sense, dogs likely combine many sources of information at once: smell, vision, memory, the Earth's magnetic field, even subtle environmental cues that humans barely notice. Together, these abilities create a navigation system that is surprisingly sophisticated. Despite these impressive discoveries, science does not claim to have solved every mystery. There is an important difference between returning to a familiar home and finding a completely new one. If a dog escapes from a place where it has lived for months or years, researchers have several reasonable explanations. Familiar scents, remembered landmarks, spatial memory, and perhaps magnetic cues could all contribute to the journey. But occasionally, stories emerge of dogs finding owners who recently moved to a new house or returning to locations they had barely visited. These cases are much harder to explain. Some reports may involve incomplete information. Others simply lack enough evidence for scientists to reconstruct exactly what happened. Researchers remain open-minded, but they also recognize that extraordinary claims require strong evidence. It is also important to remember that not every lost dog finds its way home. Many become disoriented. Some are injured. Others are rescued by strangers or, sadly, are never found. Their remarkable navigation abilities increase the odds of survival, but they are not a guarantee. The more scientists study dogs, the more remarkable these companions become. Their ability to navigate combines extraordinary senses, powerful memory, and biological abilities that researchers are still exploring. Yet admiration should never replace preparation. If you share your life with a dog, a properly fitted collar, an identification tag, and a microchip remain the best protection if they ever become lost. Perhaps one day science will fully explain every incredible journey home. Until then, each reunion reminds us that our oldest animal companions may understand the world in ways we are only beginning to discover.